Hi, Joe.
Hey, Fiora, what's up?
Oh, you know what? I really need that your cutting chords class, cutting chords and vowels class.
Why?
It's this Saturday, right? The 8th?
This Saturday. Yep. It's this Saturday, the 8th.
Okay, so I keep having dreams. So how I moved, right? I moved out of my house and I'm done with that. I keep having dreams about my house.
The one you left?
Yes, the one I left.
Oh, it misses you.
Oh, God. The last dream I had, I was in the house and the new people were there. Like I was getting something or picking something up. And I was walking them through how to remove popcorn ceilings. Mind you, this house did not have popcorn ceilings anymore.
Well, it's a legit topic nonetheless.
Right. So I'm there and I'm telling them how to do it. And as I'm walking out, there's a man in there and he's starting to paint the cabinets. And I'm like, you can't paint these cabinets. You can't do this. You can't. And I'm like, I start crying. And I wake up and I'm crying and I'm like, what is wrong with me?
Oh, you miss your house. Also, right, the connection to cabinets. I mean, you kind of have a strong connection to cabinets, just a tiny little bit.
Yeah.
Houses, they have Akashic records and, so there's all sorts of woo-woo things that could be going on to that. But yeah, are you going to cut the cords to your house?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I told you about my house. I think that I moved from before moving to my apartment, and I loved that house so much and prayed that the new owners would love her as much. And then I drove by and they let it go to shit. I was like, ugh, it broke my heart.
I won't do that. I was just going to write it a letter and release it and thank it and do the whole thing. But yeah. Anyway, how's your week going?
It's going good, prepping for the class. And, I had a bunch of doctor's appointments to get this stupid thumb thing looked at. And Hollis has an appointment tomorrow to get his nails clipped. So, it's your normal, everyday, boring, dumb, domestic.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about plant medicines and connecting to spirit.
Yes, I'm very excited about this. Very excited. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about plant medicines because it's not something that I've, engaged a ton in. So
yeah. So, I mean, the first thing just to preface this conversation, I'm just going to say for anyone who's interested in these things, do your research. We're not here giving any medical advice, even though these are, plant medicines. I'm just talking about my personal experience and maybe some tips on like if you're interested, what to look out for, that kind of stuff, etc. But with a lot of these, I know that they're not recommended if you are on any type of antidepressants or certain medications. They can interfere. So just be mindful of that. If you have a good shaman, they'll properly prep you on that.
Yeah, very good. All the medical disclaimers insert here for any potential liability nonsense. So just be cool. Be cool, people. Be cool.
The first one is cacao. So cacao, and that one's a very nice, chocolate. So originally, the way that we have it came from the Aztecs. They called it food of the gods. Theobroma is actually its Latin name, and it comes from the Greek words theo meaning food, and of the gods is broma, so theobroma. And
so cacao, for me specifically, I've had it as like healthy little chips. Healthy chocolate or snacks or whatever. Uh-huh. And then another friend of mine, she would eat it when she did, what's the diet? The Whole30 or another diet?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I had no idea it was a plant medicine.
Yeah. So the Aztecs believe it was given to them, by the god Quetzalcoatl. And he gave it to people as a heart healer, as a heart opener. I sat in, like a yoga, I always forget the name of the type of yoga it is, but it's the one where you just lay there.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll find it. But anyway, that's not really what was important. It was a meditation circle, and we took a cup of cacao, and you set an intention, and then you lay down, and it's a sound bath, and it was really beautiful. I've known people that use it with breath work, and I know we talked a little bit of that last week. And breath work can be very powerful, and then you use it together with the cacao to set the intention of like a heart healer. So cacao is good in that way, and I think cacao is a good introductory to the plant medicines because it's non-hallucinogenic. You're not going to have adverse reactions. Odds are you probably already like consume chocolate. So it's, you probably already know whether or not you can have it. So that's cacao. So a lot of people do hold cacao ceremonies. They're just really beautiful, and that heart healing is very nice.
Okay, but wait, I'm confused. So cacao, like I can just go into the grocery store or like a natural food store and just buy cacao, eat it, and then meditate, and it will take me down into a different state of consciousness?
Yeah, I think that's one way that's a great way to put it. I wouldn't necessarily buy it from the grocery store. I know there's a few places online where you could buy like true Aztec or Mexican cacao that is pure. It's not gonna taste like the chocolate that you're used to because there's no sugar in it, but you can make your own drink again with intention. Add a little honey.
That is so cool. I had no idea. I'm not kidding, like I'm not being facetious. I honestly thought it was like snacks. But no, I think everything is a potential snack, but I thought these were snacks.
Yeah, look for pure cacao, like like with a pure chocolate, and then you can make your own drink with some hot water, add some honey to it, to sweeten it up for yourself. And yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna do
this. All right, I'm talking about like the psychedelics, so the psychoactive medicines. So have you watched the Fantastic Fungi?
No, you recommended it to me and I just haven't had time, but yeah, I want to. I put it in my watch list.
Okay. Yeah. If anyone out there hasn't seen it, it's so good. It's so worth watching. It just talks about medicinal mushrooms. There's so many types of medicinal mushrooms. They talk about reishi mushrooms, lion's mane, and those are non-psychoactive. It's just healing. Mm-hmm. But mushrooms in themselves are so powerful. I've taken them in a medicine ceremony setting, although they were always on my bucket list of things I was going to try since I was a teenager. Yeah. I just didn't want to do it like on a whim. So when the opportunity presented itself for me to try them in a medicine ceremony, I was like, yes, I'm all about it. Because that just seems perfect. Like to do them with somebody that knows how to prep you, how to get you in the right mindset, et cetera, et cetera. Like, and then also to watch over you. That's perfect. So I signed up for one of these for a mushroom ceremony, and it was beautiful. So mushrooms you're considered to be tapping into a masculine energy, to grandfather spirit. So we call it grandfather mushroom. Mushrooms are they're like the brains of the earth. They're mycelium, which is like their like root systems. Like they form this cellular connection, like that communicates to each other throughout the earth. It's amazing. So they really go into depth in that documentary, like how it's like they're like the internet kind of thing of the plant world. It's beautiful.
Very cool.
When I experienced mushrooms, they showed me time. They showed me how time works and how time technically doesn't work. Like how it doesn't function outside of, because I never understood it. Like what's that book? Is it In the Now or
Eckhart Tolle?
Yes,
something the now, the power of now, or something.
The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So everyone talks about how this is such a great book and it's so life changing and et cetera, et cetera. And I tried to read it and I was like, what is this?
Girl, that book was horrible. I hated that book. And I was like so distracted by it that I was distracted by myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I felt like it was over explaining a concept that I didn't understand.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was we like on the mushrooms and experiencing the mushrooms that I was like, oh, this is what he's talking about.
Drugs to get me to understand what fucking Tole was talking about. Okay, props to that dude because, he's a spiritual leader and all, but pass. No.
Yeah, they showed me how, how the past is just our memory and the future is basically just our anticipation of what's going to happen. But truly the only thing we have is the moment we live in now, which is the synopsis of that book. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, good. So, we'll do book reviews every week, people, and you know where we stand on the power of now.
Sorry, not sorry for people who really love that book. I mean, good for you if you understood it without psychedelics. I mean, I just needed a little bit more of a push. So the thing with mushrooms, so they became really popular in the 60s. However, they were truly they brought to light by a curandera in Oaxaca, Mexico. Her name was Maria Sabina. So I would be remiss if I did not mention Maria Sabina, and when I talk about mushrooms, because she's the reason why Americans know about it now. Her story is very interesting. So she actually experienced mushrooms for the first time when she was 9 years old.
Wow. What, accidentally?
No, well, no,
ceremonially?
Not out of need, basically. So her father died when she was very young, and then her mother had to go to work, and she left her and her sister in the care of an aunt. And the aunt basically neglected them. She would hide the food from them. And so they were starving. Yeah. And so she would go out on the fields with the goats, and there were these mushrooms that grew, and she knew that the mushrooms had something to them because she had an uncle who she saw had been healed when he was given mushrooms to consume. So she and her sister ate the mushrooms, and they were only 9 years old when they did this.
How old was the sister?
I think it was her younger sister.
Yeah.
So
I'm not gonna lie, that kind of cracks me up a little bit.
Yeah. So she ingested the mushrooms, and she basically talked about how she connected to them. She called them the children of the earth, los niños de la tierra.
That's beautiful.
And they showed her that she was going to work with them, and showed her that she could heal people with them. And that's essentially how it got started. She started, so she lived her whole life as a curandera, and she held these ceremonies, for people. But she grew up poor. She lived poor. She died poor, although, eventually word got out that she was doing these ceremonies, and these American white men came and they sat in her ceremonies, and whether or not they paid her or not, sounds like they didn't pay her or anything, right? But she was also the type she did not ask. She did not ask for payment. She, I believe all she ever offered was it's whatever your offering is, I will accept it.
Mm-hmm.
But seems like they didn't even do that, because one of the men, this guy, Robert Wasson, he came and he sat through one of hers, and then he ended up publishing this whole Life magazine article that blew up. It was about seeking the magic mushroom. And then he wrote a whole book about it, but he never paid her anything. And he never even asked her permission to publish any of that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. She actually ended up, being chastised by her community for the work that she was doing with these people, because all these tourists were coming in and just kind of being disrespectful, and they ended up burning down her house.
And tourists or her community?
Her community. Yeah, her community. Yeah, and kicking her out. Yeah, it was very awful. Eventually though, towards the end of her life, she was allowed to come back into her community, and that's where she lived out the rest of her life, and she did die there. But yeah, it's that story in itself.
What a cool movie. Is there a movie about her out there?
No, there's only a documentary where she's actually in, they interviewed her. She did not speak Spanish. She did not speak Castellano Spanish. She only spoke the native Oaxacan language, Mazatec. And she never learned to read or write.
Wow. What an extraordinary life. Okay. I'll have to, I'm going to put that on my list too. I'm just going to spend all my time researching stuff.
Yeah. So she's credited basically with the start of the psychedelic revolution of the 60s. And people that studied with her. So there was that Robert Wasson guy, Timothy Leary, Bob Dylan, and Walt Disney are also rumored to have visited her as well.
Are you kidding me? And they never gave her any money.
Can you fucking imagine?
I mean,
Walt Disney.
Fuck you, Walt Disney. You can throw down at least $100.
Fucking Nazi sympathizer.
Listen, this is a good segue to mention that next week's episode, we're going to talk about whitewashed spirituality.
Yes. Because this is the shit that happens when colonizers come in and they steal, our information, and then they try to go and sell it back to you. Just bullshit.
Yeah.
Because that guy was on mushrooms when he made Snow White and
oh my God, his early Mickey Mouse stuff. It's like, what the hell am I watching? What am I seeing here? I don't even like early Disney. I'm not saying I don't like Disney.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at Disneyland is definitely, you're on something. You're on some kind of psychedelics. Like, that thing is dark and weird.
That's just, Disney is dark and weird. We don't care for it.
Disney's pretty dark. They do tend to kill the mother pretty consistently throughout every movie.
Yep.
So
yeah, I
don't know what's up with that.
I don't know, but they'll get called out here.
Yeah. So anyway, back to mushrooms. So mushrooms are, all of these plant medicines, they're all healers and they're all teachers. Mushrooms are, it's like a mind expansion. It is, it helps to shift your perspective, to look at things differently, to understand things differently. For me, it's brought up, some childhood wounds that I wasn't even really aware of. It's also brought up, from my last ceremony, it brought up my soul contract with my dad. And it just showed me this is how things were meant to play out. That is a contract that you both signed up for. That is why things happened the way that they did, because my dad passed in an accident at work. I was 21 years old at the time. However, when I was small, when I was 5 years old, I used to have this dread, that something was going to happen to him at work, that he was going to come home and he was going to come home hurt. And I used to have these dreams of him coming home hurt from work. And the mushroom showed me that was because at that age, my intuition and my soul contract was still very fresh somewhere in my consciousness.
Yep.
So I was picking it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it happens. Especially with children under the age of 7. You're still connected at, not just, the third dimension. You're a third dimensional being, you're right. But you're also tapping into on a consistent basis that fourth and fifth dimensional knowledge and knowing. And the fifth dimension is where your Akashic record or your soul blueprint actually resides within your etheric field, within your subconscious. So that's why it's easier for kids to, experience that stuff and see it.
Yeah. So they showed me that. They showed me my contract with my dad. They showed me the understanding of time and that whole idea of being present in the moment. And I really understood it. And it was beautiful. Yeah. So
they're amazing and delicious.
They are. The way I consume them, they're basically in a cacao drink, that has mushrooms in it, and it tastes great. No complaints there. No. Unlike the next one, which is Wachama, or grandfather medicine, also known as San Pedro cactus. This one's a little hard going down.
Did it taste bad?
I'm not gonna say it tastes bad. It's a texture thing for me, because you are consuming cactus. It's the green part of this cactus, and it's very thick.
Is it slimy?
Kind of.
Yeah, that's what I don't like.
But it's very thick, and it's a lot going down. It's not one of those things where you can just kind of take it and it sits in your throat. it's a little hard. And some people say that it's bitter, but according to the shaman that I have worked with, she said that it's if you have bitterness in your heart, then the medicine will taste bitter. So I'm not going to say that mine tastes bitter because I'm not bitter.
Mine tasted sweet as pie.
It was fine. Mine was a little cinnamony, but it wasn't bitter. It was just it's a texture thing, the going down thing. But Wachama is also a masculine energy that you're tapping into. And it's actually been used throughout history by ancient pre-Columbian civilization from Peru, like off the Peruvian coast, and then in the central Andes. And it's been used for more than 4,000 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is not really new stuff. It's just new for us. So Wachama helps to really provide clarity. It provides balance and harmony. And it's a lot of inner child work. It's like reconciling with your inner child. So when you're under the influence of Wachama, it's recommended to do like activities like coloring, being like playful. It's because it's inner child healing. Where other medicines like ayahuasca, which is more like divine feminine energy, and that's very strong. Wachama is more like your playful grandpa. Like he's like your caring, playful grandpa, and he's not gonna scold you. Like he's sweet. So I mean, I've experienced that definitely in a very gentle way. For me, it has definitely brought up stuff from my childhood that I was aware of, but I just didn't like resolve it. And it showed me how those things from my childhood were still affecting me today. A lot of the stuff for me had to do with like my relationship with my sister, and like that whole thing of like being her caregiver for whatever reason, and just kind of like letting that go. That was how you felt at the time for, X reason, and kind of showing me that whole thing. And then just allowing like the release and the clarity. It's also brought me ideas of like the introspection that I can do for myself, and the work that I should practice at for myself. And
that's the clarity. Yeah. The self-actualization or realization.
Yes. So that's Wachama. It definitely opens you up to opportunities and ideas. It's a great teacher. And the effects with Wachama last about 8 hours, like 8 to 10 hours at most.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a whole day.
I mean, you need to set some time aside to do Wachama.
Yeah. That's why in the ceremony setting, it's great, because then you're in a nice controlled environment and you're safe. Like, and you're there with other people also experiencing the medicine, and it's a beautiful way to experience that.
I love all of your experiences. I really want to experience plant medicines in a group setting.
Yeah, I really like the community aspect, because you get to share with others and feel safe around them as well, because you know that you're all there for healing. You're all there to do something better for yourself. So it's very nice. The last one I want to talk about is ayahuasca.
It's the mother of all psychedelics.
Yes, it's the mother teacher. So it is the divine feminine energy that you're tapping into, but it's also just divine wisdom. This is the one that's been compared to about 20 years worth of therapy. So it can be very strong, but it can also be very effective. With ayahuasca, ceremonies are usually held at night. That's like the Peruvian way is to normally to hold them at night, and you sit in silence for the first hour. You sit in a noble silence, and it's a very like individual, where like the Wachama and the mushrooms was more like of a community thing, where you did get to speak and talk to people and share that space. Ayahuasca is meant to be more, because it's such an inner journey, where you're just sitting there in your space and just going through the experience alone, but not alone, but like alone, at least in that moment for that time. With ayahuasca though, it is very important to prepare, for the ceremony up to it. Well, with most of these, it is important. Although I will say with Wachama and mushrooms, those medicines are more lenient, about your diet preparation, where ayahuasca is not forgiving.
So there are very strict rules that you have got to adhere to in order to do this successfully.
Yes. With ayahuasca, the diet is key. Specifically cutting out dairy, red meats, spicy foods, at least for a week before. Although for the dairy part, I recommend at least 2 weeks. And if you can cut it out completely, then power to you.
Why specifically dairy?
Dairy, because some of the effects of ayahuasca include purging, and purging can be in different ways, like diarrhea, also gas, that kind of stuff. But dairy exacerbates that. So dairy will be more likely that you'll end up on the toilet than.
Okay. I do not want to be shitting on the toilet when I'm experiencing a psychedelic. It's just those two things just don't go together for me very well.
I have a lot of fears, including public going number 2.
I mean,
but I will say when you're actively working and you're you know what, this is medicine, this is a treatment, I'm doing this and this is something that's going to be good for myself. It all kind of goes out the window.
Yeah.
I think you can hype yourself up going into it, but I think once you're in it, you're just you know what?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's happening and we're releasing. We're getting rid of stuff. The purging, I feel like some people are also they're really? I have to purge. I will say you don't always have to purge. It's just if the medicine is calling you to purge. From my experience, I feel like the purging was very purposeful.
Yeah. My
first ceremony, I did not purge. My first ceremony was very loving. I just tapped into what felt mostly just a white light, beautiful, a hug energy, the whole time. It was lovely. It was beautiful. I saw a few things. I didn't see a whole lot. I didn't have a lot of visions or anything. It was just little things here and there. But overall, it was a very sweet, and just a loving ceremony. My first one. Now, the ones subsequent to that, were very different. I've gone through some really hard ones where she's taken me through a trauma, put me right in that moment and sat me in it. And then you're okay, I'm experiencing this trauma again. And now you're going to purge it out. Yeah. And then I purged. And then it's it's releasing it from wherever it's stuck.
So like you said, purposeful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
Purposeful with intention. It's not I was just oh, I'm nauseous. I'm just going to throw up now.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it was definitely with intention. I would say the thing with ayahuasca that I found that helps it to work the best is for you to surrender to the medicine and to surrender with gratitude. Just thank her for being there with you, for guiding you. And one of the things that our shaman has said most recently is that all of this with medicines, doesn't have to be so hard. You don't have to go into it with the expectation of oh, this is going to be awful. No, there's no reason why healing has to hurt. Yes, healing is releasing and it can be life changing, but there's no rule that it has to be hard. There's no rule that it has to hurt.
It's the same concept with shadow work too. There's no rule. There are no rules. Your journey is your journey.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Your journey is your journey. The other thing with preparation for ayahuasca is to not engage in watching violent things, real negative things, all that. 'Cause you just don't want that, bothering you in your head while you're experiencing the medicine. But the ayahuasca is another one that lasts. It's also several hours. It's another probably 6 to 8 hours or so.
Yeah. I knew that was an all-day ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's usually it's an all night.
Or an all night, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So something interesting that I've learned though, so that's the Peruvian way. But in Brazil, they have a way different way to do ayahuasca. They'll do it's a concert.
That is an interesting concept.
Yeah, it's everyone's dancing. They're up and about. It's a real So I don't know how personally, just because I know the work and the headspace that it gets you into. I'm not sure how you would do that, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very euphoric. It feels like it would be euphoric.
Mm-hmm. But all of these, essentially what they're doing is they're connecting you to this divine spirit, to this divine wisdom, to this energy. And you can ask questions when you're in it. You can ask to be shown things. You can understand things. I know I've had a lot of questions with ayahuasca, and she'll show me like, and sometimes she'll tell me like, that's not for you to know. That's none of your business kind of thing. Like,
ayahuasca will tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I will say with any of these ceremonies, if you are interested, I would say do your research on the shaman. I would say that the best way to find these is to maybe if you meet someone who's experienced these and find out where they went, find out the process of their ceremony. Because I do believe that the beginning of the ceremony should definitely start off with everybody setting their intention. I think that's pretty common. But at the end, the integration, if you guys all get to go around and talk about your personal experiences, because a lot of times you just went through a lot and you don't realize like everything that you might have just learned, that you just experienced. And sometimes it takes you hearing somebody else's experience to be like, oh, like I felt that too. Or yes, I totally, like that completely resonates with me. And then that's such a big part of integration. It's very important. So I would say that. And then how are people vetted into the ceremony as well? Because if it's something that's like open and anybody can come in, I don't know, like I'd be a little weary about it. Mm-hmm. I think for me, I'd prefer something that has some kind of system of like, maybe people who've worked with a shaman before, so that it's not just anyone who got invited or so-and-so's cousin who wanted to come. And
exactly, like, because you don't know. You don't know how this could affect these people.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say that, and don't be afraid to ask questions. If the shaman is in the doing things the right way, they're going to be willing to answer your questions. And if not, find somebody else, because there's plenty of people out there who offer these things.
This is fascinating. I love, like I said, I love hearing your stories. And they definitely create more little ticks on my bucket list. Yeah. But the one thing that I am positive of now that I do want to do it in a group setting, ayahuasca. And then also the other one that you mentioned, Wachama.
Mm-hmm.
Wachama. Yeah. So how fun.
Yeah. They're actually meant to work in tandem. Like, so if you do an ayahuasca ceremony first, it is good to maybe do a Wachama ceremony like a week after or a couple weeks after, because it helps with the integration process. It's almost like a yin and a yang, right?
Nice.
It's feminine and masculine energies. They work really well together.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, when you were doing any of these, tell me about your connection to spirit, because that's what I want to talk about, is connecting to spirit while you're under the effects of plant medicines.
Oh God. I would say during the ayahuasca ceremony is definitely when I connected to spirit the most. Oh God, I had this one where I saw all these lights. It was a golden light, a blue light, and a green light. So it was my archangels. It was Archangel
Beautiful.
Michael and Raphael and Gabriel, and they were there. And I also started to feel like the most intense, like back pain cramps, to the point where I ended up like hunched over and like not in like fetal, I'm not going to call it fetal position. It's more like indigenous birthing. Like,
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Right.
Like almost like a squat kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And so when I told my shaman, like what I was feeling, she was like, oh, that was like your angelic rebirth. Like you were like literally giving birth to your new self. And I was like, oh my God, did I really have to like, but did I really? Because it literally felt like I was giving birth. Like, I know what it feels like. So yes, it felt like these cramps, and I saw, and the angels were there because I saw just their lights, because that's what they are, right? They're light beings. And I saw the different colors. So yes, definitely with them. And pretty much any medicine ceremony that I've ever done, my dad's always there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I always feel my dad's spirit is always there. I can always feel him either like just next to me, next to my shoulder, or holding my hand, or giving me a hug when I need it. But yeah, he's always there.
And during these ceremonies, you're actually, you're feeling inspiration and healing and clarity and guidance and all of these things. It's ultimately as a whole, it sort of strengthens your connection to spirit and your spiritual beings and your guides, guardians, angels, loved ones, all of those things, which is really, the point of connecting to spirit. It's not just to be like, hey, what's up? Can you give me this thing that I want? Mm-hmm. It's all about developing that relationship.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. When you combine plant medicines with tapping into your consciousness, it's like, for me specifically, I'm able to tap into those higher layers. So I wanted to talk about cannabis and consciousness. And but first, before we get into that, I want to talk about, how to connect to spirit. So many times with my clients, their questions always involve, how do I connect to spirit? How do I do that? How do I talk to my guides? Right.
Yes.
So we'll just start there.
Okay.
All right. So the first thing that you want to do is sort of develop like a connection practice. Okay. Typically that's meditation or breath work, right? Some type of modality that takes you into just that higher state of consciousness. All right. But you don't want to put all this pressure on yourself to meditate like a Buddhist if you're not Buddhist, right? There are many different types of meditation techniques out there. So really find one that works for you, even if it's just putting on your headphones and listening to like solfeggio frequencies or brainwave left-right binaural beats on YouTube. That's a form of connection. It's basically you're connecting with that part of you, that subconscious part of you.
Yeah.
You'll also want to make sure that you make a habit of asking your guides for help. So many people, they like struggle and they're like, this is hard. Life is hard. And it's like, well, I'll say to them, well, did you ask your spirit for help? And they're like, well, or your guides, well, I don't think I could. Well, yeah, you can, because they can't help you if you don't ask because of free will.
Right.
Right. So they're like, we want to help you, but you have to ask us. So I just tell people to get comfortable with that. Just start out by asking for help, like with finding lost items, keys, shoes. I'm losing shoes all the time. Also ask for help with fun things like finding parking spaces.
Yes.
That's always really fun. And like I've said before, I'm lazy. I don't want to walk across the parking lot. So I want that prime spot right next to the cart corral. It's like easy peasy. And then when you receive what it is that you've asked for, you want to thank them. You definitely want to thank them. So here's my stance on gratitude. And I learned this actually from one of my friends who is also an Akashic reader. And she told me one time, she said, I don't give gratitude, I give appreciation. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. What's the diff? And she's like, with gratitude, there's sort of this element of undeservedness. Like when you say, oh my God, I'm so grateful. Thank you. I'm so grateful. There's just an energy for me that was like, maybe I'm so great that I'm so lucky that I have this because I don't deserve this. But when you say that you appreciate something, there's an element of deservedness, right? I appreciate you. I appreciate what you did. I appreciate this so much. So I send appreciation. It was just that slight sort of perspective that made me go, this resonates more. Appreciation resonates more. If it doesn't, if it doesn't, let it go. It's no big deal. It's just something that I normally mention because now to me, gratitude feels like I'm grateful, but I also want to feel like I deserve it at all levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
And then when you thank them for what you've received, your confidence and your faith is going to grow. It's going to grow. And then you can move on to bigger asks like new career direction or relationship guidance, or things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to have conversations with your guides, so you can have them in your mind. You can do it by automatic writing or journaling. However you want to do this, you can do it verbally. I'll have verbal conversations, usually by myself. It's always by myself because, crazy, but, right. But, I love to have those conversations. Ask them questions and just let the first words that come to you be the answer. Okay. So for instance, I would say, one time I had a question, I forgot what it was, but it was about something. I'm like, why does this always happen? And I just quieted my mind and I just let that first word that came to me and I let it be the answer. And their answer was something very logical and simple. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. Don't worry that you're making it up, because that's what a lot of people do. They're like, but what if I'm making it up? Or what if this is ego? Yeah. They're all parts of you. And the point, ego gets such a bad rap. Ego's not a bad thing. Ego is meant to be listened to, understood, and integrated.
Yes. And it's there to protect you.
It's there to protect you. It's there to keep you safe. But it also needs, just like ego is, for lack of a better term, your inner child. So what does the inner child need? The inner child needs to be listened to.
Yes.
To be given the space to express itself, to be heard.
Yes.
Understood with unconditional love. I'm going to love myself regardless of whether I throw a hissy fit because somebody pulled out into traffic in front of me, right? That's it. I'm still going to love myself. So give ego the props that it deserves and the attention that it deserves, but you just can't let it drive your bus.
Right, exactly. And that's usually what happens because you haven't done any inner child healing. Usually people who are very ego driven, it's because they were missing something in their childhood. And it's like, it's
exactly
like,
what it is.
They have that little kid driving the bus and that little kid just like,
and
I'm
that
do
kid,
what I want.
That kid drives like shit, right? Yeah.
And kids should not be driving cars.
Kids should not be driving. And this kid, my kid in particular, not be behind the wheel.
So do a little inner child healing, address the issues that are there. And that way your ego can calm down and not feel like so defensive and so, having to be so overprotective of you.
Exactly.
Because they have to feel safe that they know that you're okay and that you're okay to make certain decisions.
Yeah. And once you do that, once you realize you integrate that ego as a part of your personality, that it's a character trait, not a character flaw, and it's simply one that needs to be balanced, then you just accept these messages as true, right? That is who I am. I have no reason to lie to myself. Ego's not in charge. So it is what it is. That's my truth. Your higher self, listen, your higher self is going to make sure that you experience everything that you need to, every single thing that you need to based on your soul blueprint. That document, that is your sacred document, and everything in there you will experience. So no opportunity will ever be lost. You'll always be redirected back in some other way. If it is written in your soul blueprint that you're supposed to take that job in Denver and it's going to turn into this amazing thing, but instead you're scared. So you take the job locally and then that turns to shit within 6 months because you're not fucking meant to be there.
You're not meant to be there.
Eventually, in some way or somehow, you will make it to Denver. Some way, the universe will step in and be like, okay. And you can look at these instances in your life, this move to Portland. There are so many other instances in my life that would have dropped me here eventually. I look back now and I'm like, shut up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then the last thing about developing that connection with spirit, because what you're doing is you're developing a relationship with your spirit guides, your higher self, whatever. I recommend if you're going to pick one spirit, you're going to pick your higher self. For me, it was a game changer. When I stopped asking my spirit guides, for help and started asking my higher self, which then activated my spirit guides. That's when it was a game changer for me. And that's when I became really good at manifestation. So practice every single day, develop a relationship with your higher self. And you're going to notice a huge difference. I always tell people 3 times a day for 30 days, you're going to notice a difference because consistency is really what's going to develop those abilities and strengthen them.
Yes.
And then, if you are somebody that wants to start doing readings, do the readings, even if it's for free, even if it's just like a couple times a week with just your friends, a 30-minute tarot reading, do that because that is going to be the way that you develop all of those clear abilities. We have the ability as spiritual beings to access all of our spiritual gifts. I'm talking about empathy all the way up to, telepathy. Just we all have the ability to access and develop those. We just, that's that percentage of the brain data that we were talking about in a couple episodes back.
Yeah, it's opening up.
Yeah. All right. So what I want to talk about is what exactly a higher state of consciousness is, right? Because we talked about how cannabis and all of these other plant medicines can help you reach those higher states of consciousness, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to get into a little bit of science, bitch.
Okay.
Hashtag science, bitch. All right. So first we have the beta state, right? And that's the state where we're awake and conscious and reasoning. That's where you and I are right now. We're in the beta state.
Okay.
Beta brainwaves, they're associated with like alertness, logic, critical reasoning. Mm-hmm. It's your basic.
Okay.
Then you have the alpha state, and the alpha state is always where I try to get people before I do an Akashic reading. That's where you're in your brainwaves are in this deeper relaxation. Okay. Alpha brainwaves are present in like daydreaming and then during light meditation as well. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And it's a really, really a great time to sort of program your mind for success. So some good examples are saying like affirmations and using creative visualization. So if you want to manifest something, the fastest and easiest way is to put yourself into the alpha state, or just go on YouTube and find a meditation that will do that, and then visualize your daydream, your new job, your new car, your new relationship, whatever. Just daydream like you're a 7-year-old girl daydreaming about being a princess. Mm-hmm. And so the alpha state also gives you access to your subconscious mind and puts you in touch with your intuition. And that's why also prior to the Akashic readings, I take people down into the alpha state, because the Akashic records are located in their subconscious, in that energy. And that's what I'm tapping into. So
I see.
All right. Now the theta state, this is my favorite state. So we experience theta brain waves during deep meditation and light sleep, and then also during the REM dream state, REM. It is the realm of our subconscious. So we can tap into the subconscious from the theta state, but the subconscious like lives in the alpha state. This is when I'm into the theta state, this is when I receive some really profound messages from my higher self. This is the easiest state to access and have conversations with my higher self. Now, everybody typically experiences the theta state momentarily. It's that when you first drift off, right before drifting off to sleep, and when you awake from that deep delta sleep. Okay. And so a lot of people will get messages. I always do. Every single time. This is when I receive some really profound messages from my higher self, but I always freaking forget them. Always. Every single time. It pisses me off. It's life-changing. Why can't I remember it? And then I'm like, higher self, if you really wanted me to know this, you would remind me. But whatever. She's like, you know what? You've been told enough times to know that you need to write it down. Not my problem.
You do need to write it down. The more you write it down, the better your retention will be. You can also practice your retention with small stuff. Like, I left my keys next to my coffee mug in the kitchen on the right side of the stove. And then you like play that back in your head, like I did blah, 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 this and that. And then like walk away from it and then try to recall it again. I left them here, this, next to this and that. And do that a few times. Do that at least once a day. Change up the thing. Like, don't always leave the keys in the same spot or whatever. And that's a way to improve your recollection of.
Nice. Does it work? Does it work for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I need to do that, because I think I'm going through like almost old person, like brain farts.
Yeah. That's a memory enhancer.
All right. So when I consciously experience a theta state, I feel a really deep spiritual connection with the universe. But it's fleeting as a human. Okay. So the cool part is that you can access your mind's deep-seated programming, right? Or deprogramming for, like we talked about earlier, shadow work. And then you also experience super vivid visualizations and lucid dreaming and inspiration and really profound creativity, and exceptional insight. So that's why I said this is my favorite state, because there's just so much to be tapped into and accessed in this state.
Yeah.
And so when I open my own Akashic record and when I'm using cannabis, I tap into that theta state and I get my my most amazing self-realizations. But I also set the intention that, okay, enough with this cyclical cycle of nonsense. Like, I need answers. I need to stop. So show me what it is I need to know.
Yeah.
All right.
So is this why we get like what sometimes we think are like really inspired thoughts when we're very much on cannabis?
Yes, that you're tapping into that subconscious because you're in the theta state. You're in that level of consciousness. And then that last one is the delta state. Deep sleep, restful slumber. It's the slowest of the frequencies. It's your unconscious mind, and that sort of thing. Now, listen, I've only received this once, but it was really fucking profound, really. And I think it may have scared me because it was like early in my like spiritual awakening, and my meditation practice. And I was like, whoa. But to be honest, I really haven't tried to go back, just because all of the work that I do is in the theta state.
Okay. So I know with a transcendental meditation, once you practice it consistently, you're accessing the delta state.
Yes. That's exactly the state that you're in. And it's why it's so difficult and why, typically like Buddhists and monks and, they spend almost their entire lives mastering that. So,
and that's what I appreciate about TM was that they don't make it like this impossible task. They really do teach you in a way that's very just like, this doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
Don't make it hard.
Yes.
And eventually you'll get there, but it is a very restful state because once you do get down there, it's like taking a pretty long nap, even though you're only down for, you only meditate for 20 minutes, but however long you're down in the delta state is incredibly restful.
Yes. And you're going to tap into information too that's otherwise unavailable at the conscious level if that's the type of meditation that you do, or if that's what you do when you reach that restful slumber state. Yeah. So, all right. So now when it comes to meditating while high.
Oh.
So the use of cannabis, right? So Tilly Easy, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's Easy. So she's a meditation teacher and the founder of Moon Me. And Moon Me is a series of women's wellness retreats, which alone, I was like, what? That incorporate both cannabis and a meditation practice. Okay. So she started using cannabis as a way to treat her anxiety. And she eventually found that it helped her go deeper into her meditations. And what she said is, so these meditations where I know that there's something there, but thinking, what is hindering me from allowing myself to go deeper? Is it fear? Like, what is it? She was like, I just want to know what it is. And so that's when she incorporated cannabis, because certain strains help you stay in those modes of meditation, but also allow you to explore further. So it's like it focuses your focus. Now, you know me by now, I love to go into the science behind the idea that cannabis can help you relax. So I just really want to quickly touch on those 3 primary neurotransmitters, okay? Because it's really interesting. GABA, dopamine, and glutamate, okay? So each of these serves a different function. Glutamate promotes optimal brain health. Dopamine helps control the mood, and GABA moderates stress. So when you introduce cannabis into the system, it has a direct impact on all of these neurotransmitters, right? Which just simply makes it easier to relax, focus, and settle into the exploration of meditation. That's it. All right. Again, I'm not advocating medically or anything like that. I'm just saying this is the science behind it.
If it's legal in your state,
Right. So how would you go about incorporating cannabis into your meditation practice if you've never done it before? Okay.
Yeah, please tell me, because I have not.
Okay. All right. So every person is different and every person has a different experience when they meditate. So it comes to, when it comes to that, it's going to depend on your practice, your meditation practice. It's going to it's going to depend on your tolerance. What's your tolerance? And then what you're trying to get from the experience, right? Okay. So not all weed
is created equal.
Sure.
You know, we all know this. So if you want to get the biggest meditation benefit, you're going to need to look for specific terpenes to support your practice. And then, and honestly, your weed barista, whatever they're called, should be very knowledgeable on that when you go into your local store.
Okay.
And so just ask them, tell them these are the terpenes that you want, right? So if you struggle with pain or discomfort, you're going to want to try, this is a hard one to, caryophyllene. All right.
Okay.
That's going to help with the relief of pain, muscle tension, and inflammation. So if when you meditate and you get uncomfortable because of pain, you're going to want to find some marijuana with terpenes in it. Beta caryophyllene. Okay. If it's really hard for you to relax, like some people have ADD or ADHD. Yes. Okay. You're going to want to try linalool, which helps promote bodily relaxation as well as decreases your stress. And then if you can't focus at all, it's limonene. And that helps improve focus and improve mood. And again, any legitimate, cannabis dispensary should have really knowledgeable staff that is going to have some idea about how those interact with you.
Very cool. So ask your local weed barista.
Your local weed dude. Hey, weed dude, I have questions.
Yes.
Okay, but you're also going to want to go easy on the amount. I'm not worried about you, right? Because it's not like you've never done cannabis before.
Yeah.
But if people haven't, or they want to try it specifically for meditation, microdosing might be the best way. One hit might help you focus during your meditation, but too many and focusing could be impossible. I'm going to be very honest. I have a little tiny baby pipe. I pack it and I take one hit. And I wait 5 minutes and I see how it hits me. And typically that's all I need is just one hit. If I take too much or I hit it twice or 3 times, fuck that. I'm blew out. Like I can't focus.
Yes.
That I'm worthless. I can't work. So, which is why I don't do this unless I'm going to do something like meditate.
Okay.
And then, you hit the kitchen and the snacks and it's it's like a wasted, couple of hours.
That's my problem. And I'll just end up in the kitchen just make ground beef sandwiches or something really weird.
Beef sandwiches.
That was something I did once. It was not good. I mean, it was good in the moment. I don't think it was good now.
Okay. So I have to ask, what's the difference between a ground beef sandwich and a hamburger?
Oh, no. It was just like literal like pieces of ground beef, like how you would put in like a pasta sauce.
Like a loose meat sandwich?
Yes, like a loose meat. It was one of the first times I ever tried cannabis, and we stopped at somebody's house and I went into his parents' kitchen and they just had a big old fry pan full of ground beef and then a loaf of Wonder Bread on the table.
Oh my God, white people.
But they were ecstatic. But I was like, oh my God, a ground beef sandwich. That sounds so good right now. And I went and I made myself this weird ass ground beef sandwich and I ate it like it was the best meal on earth. And that's why I don't smoke cannabis, because I'll eat too much and I'll eat random things.
Oh my God, I apologize to all white people for accusing you of not using seasoning.
Sorry for the stereotype.
Stereotype.
Nope. This is me raiding somebody's kitchen at midnight.
Which, okay, there are so many things about that story that I have questions about. Like, who just has a random ground beef skillet on there, right?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Okay. So if you do too much, right, you might feel spacey. You don't want to do that. So, just take it slow and take one tiny hit so you're getting the benefits of the meditation while elevating the experience with cannabis, right? And here's the thing, connecting to spirit, meditation, all of it. It's about being present and observing your experience, and you want to make sure that you're able to do that. So, just try not to dab yourself out of a really profound experience. It may take a couple times, and nobody's going to judge you for over medicating but it might just not be produce what you're hoping.
If you have to go to work after and, you need to focus, it might not be the best. Although some people do it and they focus just right. So I don't know, you do you. Yeah. It's whatever works for you. The other one I will mention, the other plant medicine that I didn't touch on that I do use pretty regularly is hape or rape.
Hape, yeah.
Yeah. And so that is tobacco snuff from the Amazon. So it is pure tobacco without any fillers and extra, the weird crap we have here with cigarettes. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like a cigarette. It's nothing even like that chewing tobacco, nothing like that. It is that with other herbs, it's also like some kind of like tree sap stuff that's in it. But it's very grounding. It's a very grounding, snuff. So it's administered with a pipe. There's a curipe, which is for self-administration. It's shaped like a V. And so you can give it to yourself, or a tepi pipe, which is when you administer it to somebody else. But it's a very grounding, very, clearing to your etheric field. I use it. I meditate first, then I use it, and then I use it for channeling. It helps me just tap in,
nice.
And I channel just right away. Just start writing stuff down, and it just clears those pathways and just really opens me up with spirit. And the effects it's not like an effect. It's not psychoactive or anything like that. Some people, it does help you release mucus out of your system. So if you have a lot of that, it'll help just kind of get that out. I've noticed people's reactions everyone's a little different. It does also help to supposedly decalcify your third eye, so help open that up. I've noticed for me, it does also clear your tear ducts. I'll have a tear or two that come out. But it's usually not a very strong effect, and it doesn't last more than maybe 5 minutes. It's just it making its way through your sinus systems, and then that's it. It's nothing. It doesn't last a long time, but it is a very clearing medicine.
Listen, I have to tell you, I love how we've classed up the use of psychedelics and cannabis. We really have. You can't look at it now as a stoner thing.
No, it's not. If you use it properly, and if you use it with intention,
yes.
I think it's the intention behind it that really makes all the difference. If you're using it because, you want some clarity, you want some healing, even if it's just grounding, whatever it is, but you're doing something for the betterment of yourself.
Yep.
And it's so beautiful when you tap into spirit and you're connecting with your higher self. I mean, what else could you ask for?
Seriously, it's amazing. There are some schools of thought or leaders out there that do not recommend the use of plant medicines in order to connect to spirit, or that don't feel that it has that it's purposeful, or that it has a legitimate reason. So if you come up against those, do your research, see how you feel about that, find out why. I mean, they can't just say it and just because. You're going to want to find out why. What are their reasonings? And if they're legit and you resonate with them, then don't, right? This experience isn't for you. But if you, it's a good way to just connect at deeper levels. And you can come away with some really profound answers and insight and clarity into, who you are and your connection. So
yeah, definitely.
It's cool. It's a cool thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. I believe if it resonates with you, if it calls to you, check it out, do some research. You can send me a message. I'll give you more information. And if not, and if it sounds too wacky, too out there, then maybe it's not for you, or maybe it's not for you right now. And that's okay.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, what else have we got? So we have our upcoming classes. Please connect with us on our Facebook group to get linked up with all of those with us. And thank you guys today for sharing space with us. Stay mystical, magical, and ready to do it again next week. And that's when we're going to talk about
whitewashed spirituality. Okay, I just want to preface this by saying our intent is not to offend any one race. Absolutely zero intent to do that. But as women of color, we do want to address what that looks like. So those of you out there that are truly open to really understanding how your privilege may contribute to microaggressions or bias that you're completely unaware of, that's what we want to get into, as well as, honestly, we have some things that we need to complain about, and not in a way that is.
We don't blame anyone specific.
There's no blaming. There's no shaming. But there's shit we got to talk about because it is getting out of control.
Yes.
And so it's going to be a really good episode. So please join us, but be aware that it is going to be. It's going to be a good conversation is what I'll say.
It's awareness. It's an awareness episode.
Yes.
So if you guys enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. You can find us on all the socials under Esoterics Podcast, and be sure to join our Facebook group, The Woke Akashic, to hear firsthand about our classes and events, as well as getting intuitive development tips and free monthly meditations, and so much more.
So much more. It's a fun group. Today, we're talking about classic macaroni salad, so you don't know what you're missing. Seriously.
Yeah, so much stuff. Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys. See you next week.